to Frequency Matters, the RF and Microwave Update series. I'm Pat Hindle. I'm here with my co-host Gary LaRude. In this episode, we're going to continue our coverage of the October Passive and Control Components issue. As a reminder, the cover feature is very good. It's about the evolution of the SAW market for the acoustic wave filter technology. And market experts from Yole Development and Systems Plus Consulting take a look at the different flavors now that we have. Because of the increased performance, increased frequency, we now have temperature compensated SAW, thin film SAW, F-bar, BAW, it goes on and on. So they take a look at those and compare the technologies and also take a look at the market leaders in the RF front end and how they're using each of the technologies individually. So that's Skyworks, Qorvo, Qualcomm, Broadcom, and Murata. So a very good cover feature to check out. We covered the technical features last time, so what do we have for product features?
So we have two product features in the issue, Keysight Pathways Design 2021. They have some cool features in that. They have a electromagnetic simulation of multi-technology modules. They also can stimulate the circuit with an actual communication waveform, so you can simulate things like error vector magnitude. And then for multi-device amplifiers, they have a pretty comprehensive stability analysis capability that does both large signal and small signal.
It's amazing what they can do now in simulation.
Oh, exactly. Then Spectrum Instrumentation from Germany has a neat box that combines an arbitrary waveform generator and a digitizer. They have various options here. You can go up to 8 channel pairs, and also the signal rates can go up to 125 megasample per second. So that's a nice feature as well. So how about tech briefs?
We had 3 tech briefs. So there was a 70 gigahertz linear and dB RMS power detector from Analog Devices, the old linear tech technology.
Right.
And then there was also an easy extension of your low frequency test equipment to millimeter wave from ThinkRF. So easy to upconvert and do that in a very cost-effective manner. And then the last one was advancements in millimeter wave antenna design that were made to XF-DTD, which is the REMCOM simulation product. So a lot of technology there going on both test and measurement and simulation. And we had a special guest join us this morning, Sean Darcy. He's a director of aerospace and defense at Analog Devices. He joined us to discuss the space market and how that market is evolving quickly, and Analog Devices is also changing with it. So let's take a look at a clip from that now.
So we hear a lot about the commercial space model, perhaps not as much about military satellites. What changes do you see in the military's approach in the coming years?
So I think, if you look, Gary, over the past few weeks, we've seen numerous indications that the government is not only going to consider commercial space models, but they're going to fully embrace it. There's been 4 or 5 awards announced and some research projects announced just over the last week that really gives credence to that belief. The military has been exploring ways to move technology into space faster for over 20 years. About 20 years ago, a program called Operational Responsive Space, ORS, was created to drive new technologies that put the assets on orbit in months as opposed to years. And extensive research has been done on the use of commercial products and spaceborne applications by the military for a very, very long time. I believe the driving factor, by the way, guys, is not so much cost. It's important. Cost is important. But I think really what they want is the ability to get the latest technologies in orbit quickly to respond to some of the new emerging threats that they're seeing out there. The new Space Force, it's a welcome addition. I think it's going to drive the next generation of military satellites. Something that's really, I think, exciting is they're already contracting with what a lot of the government contracting calls non-traditional companies to acquire hardware, services, and bandwidth. I would expect that to further drive, towards a commercial space model probably in the next 3 to 5 years.
Always good to catch up with Sean Darcy. He's really in tune with the market trends there, so it's always good to talk to him.
Yeah, he had a lot of information that he conveyed.
So speaking of the news and aerospace and defense, I thought we'd stay on that topic. Northrop Grumman Corporation has announced that they have gone into the design phase of the Air Force Research Laboratory's Ether Spy program. And that's a multifunction radar system that is based on some DARPA technology that will bring to market on commercial timescales AESA radar systems. So that's kind of what he was talking about in the space market, adopting some of the commercial practices.
Yeah.
There's also a large foreign military sale approved by the State Department to Finland.
Yeah.
And that's for F-18 Super Hornets, EA-18 Growlers and all the munitions associated with that, plus some F-35 Joint Strike Fighters and the munitions associated with those. So that's a lot of money. I think it's going to total over $27 billion if all of it is executed.
Wow.
So big programs for the RF and microwave companies to participate in. So what did you see in the news?
Well, the big announcement, Apple announced their new iPhones, iPhone 12, and there are 4 variants of it, and they all have 5G. So we had heard before that maybe only one would have millimeter wave, but I think they all have millimeter wave from what we understand. So that's pretty interesting. I also thought it was interesting that their pricing, they seem to be sensitive to pricing. So I think you could say the pricing is reasonable for Apple. They didn't really go up, which they could have done saying, oh, now we're giving you millimeter wave 5G. Then the other news item, we have a new consortium called Openrf that announced they're seeking to standardize the interface in the 5G phone kind of from the RF front end up to the signal processing. And it's interesting, they have quite a collection of founding members: Samsung, Intel, MediaTek, Broadcom, Murata, Qorvo, and Skyworks. And of course, the conspicuous ones that aren't there are Apple and Qualcomm, although they may join at a later time. So everything seems to be getting standardized these days.
Yeah, speaking of that, there's Open RAN that's also going on. And I wanted to note to everybody that we're starting a special series of virtual panel sessions. And one will be on Open RAN, and the other will be the evolution of the RF front end. So if anybody's interested in joining those panels, please let us know.
Yeah.
We're trying to line up 5 or 6 of those, maybe one a month. So those will be a good thing to check out.
Yeah, a lot of things going on in the industry that this will give us a chance to kind of tap into.
And on other event news, probably the first and only microwave event that actually occurred physically was our EDICon China event in Beijing, China. So October 13th and 14th this week, we had a successful event. There were more than 1,600 attendees. And although that's down from previous ones, it's pretty good considering. We had all kinds of COVID precautions in place. 50% occupancy in the conference rooms. There was all kinds of cleaning and social distancing during the keynote, and also we had a reception dinner. So very nice result. We got one in, and I think it might be the only one that will happen this year physically.
Right. Yeah, we sweated that because originally it was going to be in the spring, and then we pushed it to fall, and fortunately it came off.
Yeah, I really want to thank our China team for doing a great job because we weren't able to travel and help them, so they did it all by themselves.
That's great.
How about you?
Well, we are 2 of the 4 through in our EDICon online presentation, as you know. We've got 2 more coming. On Tuesday, we're going to do signal integrity, power integrity, and then the following week we wrap up with radars and antennas. And if any of you have missed the original 2 weeks, you can always catch up with all the presentations because they're all recorded and they're available on demand. And then we're already starting planning for a new forum in November 17th on power amplifiers. We have a great lineup of 6 presentations covering everything from modeling to design and sponsored by Cadence, so we're fortunate there. So we've got an active fall ahead of us.
We do.
And I think that wraps up this episode of Frequency Matters. We want to thank our sponsor, Analog Devices, always ahead of what's possible, as we heard from Sean this morning in this interview. And we want to thank you for watching. Be well.